So hey, welcome to the channel. What if I could give you 10 yards of distance with a piece of your equipment and it's not your golf club?
So there's no better feeling knowing that when you wake up in the morning to go play golf, so that you're going to play well. There's no better feeling of hitting good golf shots down the fairway. So my mission today is to help as many people as possible wake up every day feeling good that they're going to go out there and play great because of the single plane swing.
Hey, welcome to the channel today. I have something really exciting I want to talk to you about, and it's about the feet. Now, one of the things that you see that we teach in the single plane swing is how we use the feet in the golf swing. And to be honest with you, I've been teaching the foot position of Mo Norman, the lead knee flex, trail foot down. I'll tell you about that. But many of you ask questions about why we teach what we teach, what's the importance of the foot being down and the lead knee flexed. But today we're going to talk about how it adds power to the swing. And I got Bob here. Bob Winskowitz is the founder of Sqairz Golf, and he designed shoes. Yep, that's right, shoes that can help us work with our feet and get the most out of the ground forces that we use in the swing. And I got to be honest with you here. I couldn't believe it when I learned about these shoes. And you know, you follow me on this channel. I try to bring to you the things that I believe are going to help you not only become a better golfer with the single plane swing, but also the technology behind the products in the industry that can help us enhance what we do with the swing. Now, one of the things I learned very quickly from Bob is how bad my shoes are. Now, I have probably, I'm going to take a little guess here, 50 pair of golf shoes. I mean, okay, 45, 50 pair. I mean, I literally throw golf shoes away all the time because I'm like, I'm sick of that pair. So, and then now, I have one pair of shoes that I wear, and the rest I wear like tennis shoes now. I just wear them as tennis shoes. I don't want to throw them all away. But you're going to be really shocked today. So Bob, thanks for joining me. Thank you so much for bringing me these shoes and helping me with my own golf game with the shoes. But I want you to tell my YouTube subscribers your experience with the shoe, why that you designed the shoe, who you are. Tell me a little background.
Yeah. So I spent a number of years in the industry. I worked for McGregor Golf for a number of years, and arguably one of the best forged clubs at the time. Great company. Then I worked for Arnold Palmer, King of Golf, and that was a great ride for 3 years. He was everything you think he is, just a great man. It's interesting, when I would present new products to him, he would always sit there, he'd lean back in his chair and say, "What's in it for the golfer?" That was his famous line. So as a marketing guy and a sales guy, you know, that had to be my first answer to him is, what is in it for the golfer? And I looked at the evolution of equipment, and Graves is no stranger to watching technology evolve, particularly in clubs. But I tell people, I say, you know, in a golf shoe, name one thing to put in a golf shoe that's actually helped the golfer play better golf. And the only thing was back in the late 1800s when they added cleats. And even today, you know, you're seeing these shoes made, which in my opinion is a shame, and it's wrong, is to play golf in a shoe that doesn't have cleats. So I looked at the lack of technology deployed in footwear, and it didn't keep pace with golf equipment. And in fact, I jokingly say to people, wait a minute, your golf shoe is equipment.
Well, you asked me that today. You said, you know, manufacturers, where do they list their golf shoes? It's under apparel, not under equipment. And you're saying it should be under the equipment, which, I mean, that's an entirely new way of thinking about it. And you're right.
And I tell people, I always say, what's more important, the club or the shoes you're wearing? And of course, everybody says, well, you need a club to play golf. I'll give you that. But I look at it as a driver. Certainly there's better drivers, good drivers, but I look at it as an implement. And what I mean by that is the lightning rod. So you create the lightning. You teach people to create that lightning, that energy. And whether you do a vertical, a lateral, rotational, whatever force you're creating, that's the lightning. And you take that lightning and you deliver it through the club, into the club face, and into the ball. So when you think about that, you say to yourself, well, wait a minute, maybe the shoes are important. And other than the golf ball, they're the only thing you use in every single shot.
Yeah.
You know, and I tell people, when you take a practice swing, you're using the shoe. That's the only thing you use. Yeah. So I really looked into ground force, ground reaction force. And I found that a lot of people have no clue what ground reaction force is. So I boil it down, I say, if you're paying attention in science when they said Newton's third law, every action has a reaction. So as you swing, you create vertical force. And that force goes down into the ground, and the ground acts like a trampoline. And it takes that force and it throws it back up through you. And so as you create that, it comes up into you, into your hands, and into the club head. That's how you generate speed, and swing speed equals distance. So now we could talk about the types of swings and which ones are more efficient and effective. And that's what you and I have been bantering for the last couple of days, is the efficiency of the single plane and keeping that foot down and transferring or effectively keeping that energy inside your body and keeping it coming up.
And I'll mention something here. One of the connections between you and Graves Golf is there's a guy named Terry Hashimoto. And Terry, now I don't know Terry, I mean, I know Terry now, but at the time when I was talking to Terry, Terry is, well, how would you explain Terry? Because he's the science behind a lot of what the measurement of the feet, ground forces, how the feet work during the golf swing, right?
I call him the mad scientist.
Yeah.
He's an expert in pressure mapping. In fact, he's a principal in Body Track.
Right.
So he's one of the co-founders of Body Track.
Right.
So he has studied for decades and decades.
This guy's all about the feet, right?
Yeah.
And so the way I got connected with Terry was, of course, I was discussing the single plane swing and Mo Norman, and Terry hops in and says, he's Canadian, by the way. He's from Prince Edward Island, right? And he says, oh yeah, Mo was the best at using his feet. And he talked about the heel being on the ground and how the power comes from the heels.
Right.
And I'm like, and to me, I spend probably, you've seen my instruction, and obviously the people on the channel see my instruction. And they, the foot on the ground is one of those things which really either people understand it or they are like, well, why do you do that? The heel on the ground. And you know, I teach it for stabilization because you can't produce speed if you're not stable. But Terry educated me and brought me to the fact that this is where power is coming from.
You're exactly right. So Terry's big comment to people is the heel's the accelerator and the toes are the brakes.
Listen to that for a second, because I want the audience to kind of, so say that one more time.
Heels are the accelerators and the toes are the brakes, and the ankles are the shock absorbers in the propulsion system. So when you think about that, the heel and the toe, it's that braking mechanism that really helps you create the power.
And by the way, we were talking about this last night when we were at dinner. So I want to take credit for it, but I don't know if I can. The whole idea of the braking system in the golf swing. So as you know, you've seen my channel. If you go back, you know, to all the videos I put in this channel, I talk about speed's really important. But if you're not producing a braking system in your golf swing, which starts at the feet, into the knee, into the hips, and whatever, if you're not creating you can't accelerate the body.
Correct.
And Terry now uses the braking system as part of his terminology too. So I'm going to take credit for it, but he probably is the one that came up with it first, to be honest with you. So.
But I think, well, you know, at this point, I'm just glad that there's a revelation here, which people are starting to understand the importance of the feet throughout the golf swing. And people like yourself have been teaching it for years. I'd even say to you to your face, I don't think you've elevated it enough. I think people need to really take it to the next level, because when you look at the tour players out there, you know, they'll tell you that they're gaining power from here down, that this is where they're seeking it now. They're looking for other places to pick up distance.
Yeah.
And now they're starting to understand the importance of the footwork, you know, and a lot of them understood it, but a lot of them don't understand it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So now it's a matter of that. So I really looked at...
Can I make a point, though, really quickly? Because I think for me as an instructor and guys like you that are designing products that are better for the golfer, and guys like Terry who are looking at this from a scientific perspective, this is really what I'm passionate about. Because so much golf has been taught in such an anecdotal way for so long that we accept the fact that just because the guy's a good player, he must know what's happening. And it's guys like you, and hopefully I'm part of that mix of people that's looking at golf from, and I don't want people to be confused that we're overanalyzing it, but we're literally looking at it from, is it really giving us the result we want and helping a golfer improve? And if you can improve by changing your shoes, I mean, think about that for a second.
Yeah.
And I just want to, I was talking to Bob as we were coming over here, and I have a very famous student that I teach, and I teach him through video, and he sends me videos all the time. And the very first video he sent me, the first thing I did after getting to know Bob was look at how his shoes were terribly allowing his feet to move everywhere. I mean, he was wearing tennis shoes playing golf. And I'm like, and his pelvis is sliding around, his body's sliding around. I'm like, okay, I need his legs to work better than that, but I don't know if I can with those shoes on his feet. And it's the first time in my life that I've ever blamed it on shoes, because I always blame it on the student. It's like his pelvis moves incorrectly, but maybe it's his shoes. You know,
and I bring that up all the time. I say to people, do you think it's possible by changing your shoes you can improve your golf game? And I'm sure you know the answer to that. But I can take 5 minutes with them. And in fact, I could tell you now, go stand on a sheet of ice and swing the golf club. Or sit in a swivel chair, pick your feet up, and try to hit a golf ball.
I mean, yeah, exactly.
Power comes from the ground. That's where it comes
stability.
From. It is.
Yeah.
It's that balance and stability. Balance and stability. Before we launch these shoes, I would say to people that market golf shoes, all right, point to me where in that shoe you can define balance and stability. What attribute did you position in that shoe to say, now it's more balanced, more stable? Nobody can do it. So what we did is, when we looked at this back in 2009, at the time, this is when Echo launched. And we watched in golf shoes, people go to more the sneaker-like type of shoe with no spikes. And I sat there, looking at all the research saying that's just, it's not right for the game of golf. I mean, why would you wear a sneaker? I mean, if you watch the feet movement, well, you do. I mean, in the biomechanics, you can't have your feet moving all around. Yeah. And that's really, those shoes are a lack of structure.
Right. Right.
So what we did is,
well, this is what blew me away when you kind of showed me this demonstration. This blew me away.
Is that,
by the way, this is my shoe. By the way, this is my old shoe. Yeah.
So one of the things that we say in footwear making in the golf swing, that if you can take a shoe and twist it, toss it, get rid of it. It's not doing any favors. That means there's a lack of structure. So anybody watching this, if you could just pick your golf shoe up,
take your shoe off,
and twist it, if you can do this, get rid of it. It's not doing you any favors. However, when we started this, I mean, you can't twist this golf shoe.
Yeah.
Because it's,
I mean, that's great. It's unreal.
And now that's all about the structure of a golf shoe and the lateral and the medial side. Now, when I looked at footwear making, most shoes are rounded toe. So we started with a square toe golf shoe. And the reason for that is your toes can sit naturally in the shoe. Now, when you talk proper biomechanics, anybody watching this can take your hand and you can move it up and down very easily. But if you squeeze your fingers together as hard as you can and then try to move your hand, you feel the stress in your wrist, which works its way up the arm. Same with the feet. So now that your toes can sit naturally in the shoe, you get proper range of motion for the foot. Now it can operate naturally. Secondarily, because we started with a square toe, I could widen the base under the ball of foot by 4 millimeters wider than any other golf shoe. Now, why is that important? Well, in footwear making, that's the most ideal thing in a golf shoe, because a wider base means more balance, more stability. So when it comes to pointing to technology, I can say, we've got a wider base. Now we can position the cleats out here a little farther. Again, better balance, better stability. The other thing we did is we looked at the pressure points in the bottom of the feet. And these red cleats show those areas of the greatest amount of pressure in the bottom of the feet. You didn't tell me that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
But the other thing is when you look at this shoe versus, say, a competitive shoe, and you look at the surface area of this shoe versus the surface area of that shoe.
Yeah.
And you'll see that there's a lot more ground connection here. Mm-hmm. And the more ground or surface area you can cover of the ground, the better the energy exchanges. So we're doing testing with Terry. We did it with Golf Laboratories, Gene Parenti out in California. And we found that on average, people were picking up 2.2 miles an hour in swing speed, and on average, 8.8 yards in distance.
That's incredible. And I got to say something about the shoes, because just my personal experience with it. So I play, this year I've played a lot of golf. And I probably, out of the, let's say, 80 rounds that I played, I probably wore the Sqairz shoes half of those rounds, right? And so I got to really compare the difference between my shoes that I liked. And what's interesting is the Sqairz shoes for me, I felt, now I should have probably tracked how well I hit the ball that day or whatever, but it's definitely one of those days, and I guarantee there's a direct correlation between the days that I felt good hitting the golf ball, because it's like anybody else. When I go play around of golf, you get on the range and you start warming up, right? And it's like you either find your rhythm or you don't. It's like you either start hitting it pretty good or you don't. And it's kind of like one of those things you kind of blame it on, well, you know, it's one of those days, whatever. But I bet you there's a direct relation to how stable I was. And because I know when I'm stable. I know when my feet are moving around, and I know when I feel good. And my biggest problem with my golf swing, and I kind of want to show you the technique of our golf swing a little bit. You understand it, but I want to show it so they can see, and you can show you how the shoe helps this. But when I hit it good, I feel rock solid with my feet. When my worst swings are when my first move feels unsolid. Yeah. And I was just looking at the shoe a second ago, and I saw the pressure here working on the inside of the foot.
You know, what's interesting is as you know, Nick Faldo's involved with the company, and one of the things he says famously is he says you can't find balance during the swing. Can't find it during the swing. It's got to start before you swing.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And you know, to that point, you know, that's one of the keys to this shoe is the wider base gives you that balance and stability. But the other thing we found too in a golf shoe was that when you start thinking about inefficiencies, if you can twist it, that means it's what's happening in the swing. There's an inefficiency. And if you start checking the boxes of inefficiencies, it translates to less distance. You're not optimizing or maximizing.
So you just use all the terms that I use at my golf schools. More efficient, optimized, consistency. All those terms that we use to say, this was Mo Norman's golf swing. This is why we help people, and that's why we get results in our instruction, because we're simplifying it down. This shoe simplifies the way you use your foot.
Right. He was the straightest guy
and by the way, it's also the natural way you use your foot, because you're not crimping your toes up, right? It's the natural way you use your foot.
It's all natural. And the way I say that is because your toes are sitting naturally, then on the back of the shoe, as you can see here, you've got a heel stabilizer. So this runs all the way down into the arch. But what it does is it centers the heel in the shoe, and it keeps the heel down throughout the swing. The other thing we did, which is really cool, and a lot of people call us and write us about this, is that on the shoelace.
Yeah, this was. In my first pair, did it have this? In my first pair of shoes, did it have this?
I don't believe it did.
Right, because this was like, when I've got the shoes that had this in it, I was like, this is genius. Yeah.
So we printed silicone on the lace, and I'm sure everybody out there's played golf, you got to tie your shoe 3 or 4 times around. If you're using the BOA system, that's a different story. But again, the BOA pulls the shoe in from here, in where lace should pull the shoe down from here, because you want the foot to be one with the shoe. And the one challenge we saw in the golf swing is that the foot is moving in the shoe. And again, that's another box of inefficiency. You don't want that. So you've got to be able to bring this down comfortably and then lock it in and never tie the shoe once again.
This was unbelievable, really. I mean, give it to you and the engineers to figure this out, but that's incredible. The shoelaces. Just a little thing like that.
Yeah, a little thing like because it brings it down. Now the foot is one with the shoe, and that's what you want.
Yeah.
So again, we looked at every aspect of footwear making. We looked at the golf swing. We looked at the pressure mapping, the lateral medial movement. We looked at biomechanics. And I really believe that we're the only company to date that look at everything like that and build a shoe based upon that science. That we can actually go out and say that if you don't hit the ball farther with this shoe, we'll take it back.
Yeah,
we have a 30-day guarantee.
So let me show you the single plane swing, just so, I mean, I want to review this with the audience here, just so they see the swing. And stand right here for a second. Sure. I'm going to grab a club, and then we'll, and this is kind of when I was talking to Terry about Mo's swing, you know, talking about Mo's swing and how, so just as a reference, just so you understand how we teach the use of the feet. 2 very important things that we teach. Number 1 is that the lead foot has a rotation to it. And what's interesting about what we teach in the rotation of the lead foot, I'm surprised that more teachers don't pay attention to that. I mean, to me, it's one of the shockers to me when I watch guys with their foot straight out and working against that foot like that.
Right, yeah, yep.
So to me, it's one of the things like we teach this is almost a must. Well, it is a must. You must have this foot turned out, you know, let's call that 30 degrees, right? At least. I would rather have too much foot rotation than too little. So that's a very important part because, and then the next thing is when we work against the inside of the trail foot, right? We're working on the inside of the trail foot, stable against that heel. So here's the thing about it. When we do this, and this is what kind of really attracted me to the science behind the shoes, was when you go from this position at the top, which is inside that trail leg, and you move, and this is that lateral motion that we talk about, when you go into that knee like this, so we hit into a flex knee, the knee must go towards the toe.
Yep.
Why? Because the toe is what?
Those are the brakes.
Brakes.
Yeah.
And so you gotta understand that when I talk about the braking system of the golf swing, now the shoe is helping me have a better braking system.
Absolutely.
Because if I grip my toes in, then my brake moves. Look, I have video, like if you rewind my videos from some of my past, you'll see my foot sometimes roll like this when I'm swinging. I'm still braking, but it's unstable versus flat. Mo would have loved these golf shoes because he would always buy those big FootJoy shoes that had the big wide base, and he would just plant his foot with them, and so that's what. So having this foot turned out, having this heel on the ground, there's basically how we strike a golf ball, just like that. Lead knee flexed towards the toe, braking system, heel on the ground to reduce pelvis rotation.
Right.
Yeah.
And you push off from the inside of the foot here,
right there,
in the heel. That's where you need it.
Yeah.
So when you look at the cleat positioning here, when I put the red cleats right here, that's where you got to get there.
And the other thing too is, and just so when you understand in the single plane swing we teach, is that when we push. So one of the questions we always get asked. You asked me this question last night when we were in the car. Todd, would you say lateral rotation on a golf swing? So we had this kind of discussion about, and I measure everything, right? So I've quantified every single aspect of the single plane swing. But if I ask you this question, this is a biomechanical question. I'm at the top of my backswing, okay? And the first thing that moves in the kinematic sequence is the pelvis, right? So you'll see the pelvis go in a positive direction is the first thing. Mm-hmm. So here's always the question I have for my students. Next week when I teach the school in Phoenix, I'll ask this question. How did that happen? Like, how did the pelvis move first? Like, what part of the body pushed or pulled or rotated, whatever? I'll tell you what in a second, but what happened? And so if you go to the top of your backswing, if you're at home, do this, right? Go to the top. And then now, how do I get my pelvis? What's doing that, right? It's not doing it by itself. It's like my pelvis can't move, right? Yep. My pelvis is just in space. So it's the push from the inside of the leg that moves. Yep. It's pushing here, right? It's pushing right there. So now, there's two things to that. One, if you screw up the backswing, then you can't do it, right? So that we call that transition, right? So how do I transition? I brace against that braking system right there, mm-hmm. and then I push from the inside of that foot over into that braking system.
Right.
And I can't tell you. And then to finish that off, when I get to here, that heel being down. Now you can roll it in. I don't mind that. You can have it in, but when you push off, and you're in the braking system here, you've created a limitation, which allows the rest of this to fire through.
Right.
And here's what's cool about what you just said a minute ago. It all started from down there.
It did. When I watch you in that swing and over here and you brake, and then here you brake, I mean, think of the importance of the feet and the ground connection through the force that you're putting on your feet.
I feel it for sure.
And that's where the stability, because at the wide base as you're coming over here, it will cover up a couple inefficiencies of maybe a little slide or something, but again, the wide base.
I sat in a room with a bunch of guys much smarter than me that understand motion better than me when it comes to the golf swing, and I asked them one question. I like the big picture first, right? And then I get into the small stuff. And I said, what is the worst thing a golfer can do biomechanically in a golf swing? Like, just tell me the one thing. And people say, well, yeah, but biomechanics look at it differently. They said the worst thing a golfer can do is move the pelvis in that direction first, mm-hmm. as opposed to brace on the inside of the leg, because it's instability, and number one, it's instability. But there's no way to move my body in that direction because my weight's going over there. But the other thing that's bad about that position is that once I'm here, it cascades itself up into the golf club in the upper body.
Yeah.
So once again, you have that, what happened down there works its way right up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, again, I get back to that whole thing in the golf swing. Should golf shoes be considered equipment? Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. And secondarily, I always, like I said, what's more important, the club or the shoe? Again, that's the chicken and the egg, but I will say that this is equipment for the feet. And when we start really getting serious about golf and want to enjoy it more by playing better, and you take up, good instruction, I love the fact that you guys, as an instructor, you have taken this and said, guys, look, I'm going to look at you from head to toe.
Yeah.
I'm going to fit you for clubs. I'm going to teach you how to swing right. But I need you to be in the best equipment.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm excited about our partnership.
Well, and I wouldn't do it if this
Yeah.
thing, I didn't think it was a benefit to not only me as a understanding the golf swing, but that I mean, my job as an instructor, as you've seen, is to help my student improve and give him every advantage and reduce the variables involved in that. And this shoe, I mean, it's remarkable. You've done a great job with the shoe. By the way, if you want to get a pair of these shoes, you can go to the link, because there's a link below to get, you have a special offer for the Graves customers and any of the people that follow my channel. Just go on the link below, click on the link, and we'll give you the product code that'll be on there. We got some special offers. You have a special deal just for our guys,
just
though.
the Graves. And in fact, I'm really excited about some of the new product launches. This is one of the new models, and if I may, I want to show you.
Yeah. Oh, this one, I get the first pair of these, right?
Yes, you do. So we're launching this in March. This is what we call America's Soul. And it's got the USA flag and the camo colors. We're donating a portion of the sales to our fallen soldiers and wounded veterans and veterans in need.
Correct.
And as you can see on the sole, we did a really cool design. So one of the things we'll work with you in our partnership is that the Graves golf members will have first shot at these shoes. We're launching this, I think it's March 1st, but we're going to have a pre-buy and be a special offer for the Graves folks before the rest of the world gets to see it.
And the other thing I want to say, just before we wrap up, is you did these amazing shoelaces, but your socks are great. I mean, their socks are great, because you sent me some of the socks with the shoes, and we get a free pair of socks when you buy a pair of shoes.
That's correct. All the Graves members get a free pair of socks. So we did a square toe sock. So why would you wear a rounded toe sock?
The socks are great. I'm telling you right now. And they come higher, because my socks are always down on my shoes, right? And these things are better socks. Everything's better about this footwear. I'm telling you right now.
We did a lot of research in the socks.
Oh, I know you did. I mean,
we looked at running socks, and we looked
at the
compression.
We wouldn't be standing here right now if you hadn't done the homework on this thing, because it is the right stuff for your feet and the right science. So great job. Great product. Great job.
Thanks
for joining me.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Hey, and thanks. And by the way, don't forget, subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up if you like, and share this content with others if you think it's going to help. We'll see you soon.